Yeah, all right. Yeah, so let's kind of like think about, the thought of like intellectual property, or the meaning and value and content, um, or what really having fair use is, or what um, copyright or infringement is as compared to some idea of what would be maybe some idea of like inside trading as embezzlement. Um, it it doesn't really reflect some in idea of like a loss prevention as suppression, as some idea of a registration. Um, you know, um, it doesn't really identify registration as transportation, or any method of some idea of in that way. The thing is that my whole idea of thinking about terminology that's normally within some idea of category of description based upon intended use, as compared to the idea going through a circuit where it seems that everyone's taking their turn of what degree definition is, and like you've been accused of having a dictionary and like already knowing that and not even realizing you're not even thinking like that. I mean, in any kind of way, the ambiguity of like the dictionary, and not limited to even going beyond what's available as like a normal dictionary, more so on the degreed side, beyond bachelor's. In any case, it's already going on like a minute and 45 seconds. The thing is that really it seemed to me that ultimately my intent with my music in I'm not sure if I would even choose the word lyrics with writing songs. It seemed to me the way things have been really the way it's been happening is that a duration of lifespan. I mean, other factors have been involved that were like really putting up the idea that didn't seem to be the issue, when in fact it seems to be more and more only what lifespan means in intellectual. Normally not limited to entertainment, but normally I'm sure that most people's automatic thought when they hear the word intellectual would almost be like a U.S. patent, or like entertainment law or U.S. patents, that way of like intellectual. And the thing about intellectual is that whether it's a patent pending, I mean, it's almost like getting to the thought of like getting beyond a person's thought of like using someone else's information, or at least having a formative approach of direction beyond what available information has been made available or chosen as accessible, and applied in a direction that would be maybe not necessarily in any kind of way a breach or an infringement in any kind of way, yet the availability and used in a way that would be completely different than any other in practical application and principle, and still has some like unique geographic attachment and duration of like what lifespan really means during a person's life, and birth year, and everything about the way it really is. And this is the year 2025, okay? But the thing with this is that I kind of like think about certain things involving retroactive presidential administration. More consciously than even having a need to think that way, other than just like watching the news. And normally retroactive presidential administration or grandfathered idea of like corporate law, as compared to presidential, normally a corporate executive situation, or the thought of grandfathered as administrative, and what retroactive presidential administrative thing is. And that's the way it seemed to be, with like really considerable amount. Even it seemed to be going all the way back to Lyndon B. Johnson, in space exploration, and ultimately even Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal Act. I mean, and really the Richard Nixon and 1976 200-year celebration of America, and ultimately get into the thing about in my mind, predominantly, seem to be, William Jefferson Clinton and Al Gore, and the thing about the 1992 presidential inaugural with Chevy Chase and the George Bush administration, the Barack Obama, the thing about what's going on in the current situation with information. And it seemed to be that also, some idea of like, Donald Trump, and it seemed to be that the entire lifetime, it seemed to be that really, the thought of like being baptized during the gold rush, okay, and on the Wells Fargo stagecoach, seems to be, so American intelligence. And really what the situation seems to really be about, a baptism, and for it is written, so for real, it's unreal, kind of like, almost like beyond not funny, thinking that, it's kind of hard to believe. It's really not hard to believe really at all. It's just like, but are you for real? Serious? Yeah, it seems to be like, yeah, maybe so, yeah. So like in any case, so like, yeah, for real, so like, certain factors about, some idea of that book, Psychic Warrior, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover up the top secret CIA Stargate program. And it seemed to be really to think about, the Navy, oceaneering, and now it almost seems to be like this song of Hillsong, and it sounds like a person. I know a lot of singers like imitate a lot of other singers of their own, like, category, whether it be, like a bass, a soprano, a tenor, or whatever the case may be. That will, normally people who like singing normally like do that other than, their own music. But the thing with this, it seems to be that Hillsong has that one song, Oceans Deep. It seemed to be, that song, the phrase Oceans Deep, where feet may fail, it seemed to be the thing about the Spore Stone. And, the humorous bone, it seemed to be, whether or not if something about the Spore Stone, the humorous bone used in orthopedic surgery, and what the deal is. But somewhere in my mind, it seemed to be, something about the Hillsong song, Oceans Deep. And it seemed to be almost like that book cover on Psychic Warrior, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover up the top secret CIA Stargate program. And the Oceans Deep, it's like that guy on the cover of that book, Psychic Warrior, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover of the CIA's top secret Stargate program. It's like a baptism automatically, like, now to me. And it's really been that way for, like, considerable amount, backtracking, all the way back to June 14th, 1992. For real, okay, a baptism. Like on Flag Day, okay? And it seemed to be more and more, it's almost like, in my mind, like, they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, students holding their hands around the flagpole and praying. It's almost like, you gotta begin to, is that something about the for it is written thing about the baptism? And it's ultimately even getting to the idea of a international secret service of, like, the misappropriation and allocation of the Mississippi, and the ISS and the SSI of, like, an international space station, an international superstar, and supplemental security income, or superstar intelligence, and, international superstar, and, like, all that, and it seemed to be like it had gotten to the HTTP colon being, instead of the colon, // a ratio // and how the misappropriation and allocation of the Mississippi and the ISS and the SSI is that, likewise, almost like the pi squared in proper English grammatical composition, the P being visible in pronounced and the P being visible and silent, between the PPI of the Mississippi and the HMO. And the deal about the PPI and the PPO and the HMO, and it's almost like the E equal MC squared there, and the pi r squared in proper English grammatical composition, involving, the deal about the PPI in Mississippi and the PPO and the HMO. Yeah, so it's like the HMO is almost like thing about the euro, and when the R is like in the county and the country, proper English proper English grammatical composition involving the P, and it applies to the R between county and country. It's almost like the HMO, and the HM being like the U, and the O, but it's kind of like the P being visible and pronounced, and the R being placed as the Euro. I mean, for real, between the PPO and the HMO, and the PPI as the misappropriation allocation of the Mississippi, with the ISS, the International Space Station, International Superstar, or, International Secret Service, and, supplemental security income, the ISS and the SSI that way, and the PPI, I mean, it's automatically in my mind, automatically the PPO and HMO thing about it, and proper English numerical composition, and the HM being like the 21, the U, and the UO, and the P in proper English numerical composition applied to the R between county and country, and the R, and the Euro, the HMO being the Euro, okay? And automatically, I mean, years of, like, thinking this way, it's like automatically, like, really most of the time not even a question in my mind that I'm, like, automatically going in the right direction when I, like, just start talking like this about the information and what to look for analytically and symbolically and all that about it. And so, I mean, I'm going to spend some time, whenever I feel like it about that. There seemed to be, quite a bit about that. So, like, there seemed to be, even think about Prudential, get a piece of the rock, and it seemed to be like the Chevrolet IROC Z28, and Alpha America 213, and the Humorous Bone. And I mean, the pi r squared, and the E equal MC squared, and GMC raising a bar. I mean, in anatomy, even the thing about relation, where it really matters, yeah, so like, and, I don't feel like just, like, getting all off in the anatomy, but, the thing about, like, oh my God, wow, GMC's racing a bar. Wow, I can hardly wait, right? Well, I'm going to have, like, once again, eyeballs above my beltway. So, like, somewhere in between, like, at the age of one, like in what would it be, 1965, being born, like, in 1964, some idea of what relation meant as a category. And it seemed to be, like, really only because of the baptism and certain factors it had led to, like, whatever the deal is about YouTube. I'm not real sure if YouTube just, like, does everyone this way, or if it's really the 1992 map identifying horizontal rectangles as restricted areas, and they're all red, okay? And Pearland's one of them, okay? Or if that identifies, COVID ID 19 of restricted areas, or, the RAE, the RA, and the AR, or the COVID ID 19 of the restricted area being the 18 and 1, the R being 18 and the A being 1, being like COVID ID 19 of all the 1992 map, the one and only year that I've ever seen the map have a bunch of, like, red rectangles identified as restricted areas is, like, 1992. And that's when I noticed the US $1. It's like, did I not notice it, like, all the years of my entire life? And when I decided to look was after this baptism of, like, June 14th, 1992. The word Novus Ordo Seclorum, spelled with 2 U's instead of the word seclorum, spelling seclorum with an O and a U. But it seemed to be, when I really noticed, it was like 1992 with all those red rectangles all over the United States map, and seclorum was spelled with, like, U2. Yeah, so, like, it's kind of like I noticed that. It's kind of like, have I, like, not noticed that my whole entire life? I've ever had a US dollar in my pocket, and it's just like, now I'm just noticing it, and what was in 1992. And I'm looking at the map in 1992, and all those, like, red rectangular squares identified as restricted areas is seemingly, the idea of, the RA being, like, 19, or COVID ID 19, is what it's really seeming like, even more so now. Or what, United States Code's annotated is in color code. Yeah, seemingly so, yeah, so, like, maybe even the thing about, the gallon, the normally, I'm assuming that most, high school pictures has the blue and the red close to the similarities of the color, like the United States flag, red, white, and blue. And, you know, normally like pictures of like seniors in their high school yearbook with, I'm assuming all high schools are predominantly pretty much the same about the red and the blue. As far as like senior pictures in the yearbook anyway. Or what that really is. And on the map, I mean, somehow in my mind, just the alphanumerics of high school itself, or the thing about just the alphanumerics of the words high school, and like the United States schools annotated, and just, I mean, the dress code for like the high school senior pictures being, you know, the red kind of maroon, yet red, and the blue, the colors of the flag, and the only thing about, you know, all the white stuff, yeah. I'm trying to actually place if there's anything about, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade around the Richard Nixon 1976 bicentennial thing involving praying around the flagpole has any idea of the 1992 map and all the red rectangles identified as restricted areas, or the initials RA being 19 and COVID ID 19. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that COVID ID 19 was somewhere, I think somewhere in my mind, if my memory serves me correctly, it's not like I was really paying attention when it all began, or it got to a worldwide level. It's COVID ID 19. I think it's somewhere around the year 2015, maybe 2013, maybe 2014, maybe 2015. I'm really not really sure about it, really. I mean, I don't go around like writing, taking notes for like a diary. I mean, I really go on my memory. I mean, for real. But anyway, it seems to be that has that connectivity somewhere in my mind. I'm kind of almost wondering if the students that praying around the flagpole, I mean, something about the Flag Day and you know, even the triangle. The thing with this is that, you know, now it's kind of like the map, as like the United States map, having all those red rectangles identified as restricted area, and the initials seem to be even the deal about Paul Walker's initial in the book Secrets of the Temple House Voters Over Runs the Country, and Paul Walker being the PD, and the exact opposite of the VP, the vice president, or the PD is the, you know, the House Speaker, or, you know, the 8 ohms of resistance, predominantly of like loudspeakers, and often, you know, the sign of resistance in electronic, yet the omega at the same time, yet ohms likewise in addition is that symbolic representation of 8 ohms, and likewise into the figure 8, and, you know, at a 9 degree being the infinity on a zoom lens. But in any case, you know, it's kind of like I was thinking about the 1992 map with all those rectangles, and I hadn't seen it on any other map except that one year. And it seemed to, you know, I'm kind of like really wondering now, I mean, is that 1992 map really reflecting Flag Day? I mean, the baptism, I mean, for real, with the students there in those specific years. I mean, of something in my mind that's automatically for it is written, I mean, anyway. But I'm even wondering now, even more so, if those 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is representing the idea of Mercedes in the 3-point, or the triangle and the delta force and the power squared of like the 6-point star of, you know, Israel, and even Donald Trump of the 6-point in alphanumerics 138 of a 6-point star, and like the Israeli flag, and, you know, all that, you know, color code of AT&T and solid state, and, you know, Southwestern Bell, and some transition in my mind of like 1990 to this day. It's the 35th year when AT&T is actually taken over, and all the public phones on the outside as public phones were being removed around, you know, the entire Houston area. I'm assuming the entire continent. Yeah, so I'm kind of like really wondering, I'm trying to place anything in my memory, if, you know, by word of mouth just being there, if the students on hands praying around the flagpole is ultimately getting to a 1992 map and COVID ID 19, and Flag Day, I mean, the baptism in that book Psychic Warrior, America's Foremost Psychic Spy, and the cover of CIA's Top Secret Stargate program. Because, I mean, it's ultimately, in my mind, you know, the red rectangle, I mean, is a rectangle nevertheless, and at 9 degrees, like the Lincoln Continental hood ornament is automatically the hood ornament of the rectangle, and the tennis court of 9-hole golf courses. It's automatically like international financial management. and Vantage Love 30 now, I mean, automatically, I mean, that's the way I think about it, and probably will continue to think that way. But it seemed to be, you know, significance in my mind now. I mean, just like right now, thinking about that 1992 map and restricted areas being RA and like 19, and the Ronald Reagan. I'm actually trying to place if I remember any kind of information of corporate or retroactive presidential administration, or any grandfathering that might identify some idea somewhere in my mind between warehousing and real estate, like state statutes as compared to some idea of urban or suburban, or city and county, or boundaries and limitations, or what that is a dimensional clause of Washington, D.C. in a direct circuit, or television or electronic guide being South America 130 of like Washington, or, you know, some idea of a telepathic map and a telepathic eagle and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah, so like anyway, I kind of want to include that much about it right there. And I'm going to go ahead and take a break, kind of slow it down now, and do what I normally do. And anyway, there it is, yeah.